grade, the Honourable Dr. Brian Walker.
Thank you, Acting President. Now, I have no doubt that everyone in this chamber will be of the opinion that homelessness is a scourge and ought to be removed. That would be, I think, a founding principle of every member of this chamber. The question is going to remain how, and that is sensibly debated with the recommendations from this, with excellent recommendations from the Standing Committee on Estimates and Financial Operations. And I do regard this not as bedtime reading, but as something to be seriously studied and looked at. This and, of course, the minority report as well, all of which is eminently acceptable by anyone who thinks with passion about the wellness of those in society. Now, I wanted to rise here to speak from a slightly different perspective, that of a medical practitioner who treats people who are suffering from homelessness. Now, homelessness, as everyone here knows, there's a variety of shades of homelessness, from those who are couch surfing temporarily while they're in between homes, down to those who have absolutely nothing and are standing in one set of clothes on a street corner with nothing in their pockets and no place to go. Let me, however, speak as a doctor who treats someone who comes in to my clinic suffering from problems. Everyone who is homeless is going to be at risk of increased susceptibility for a wide range of illnesses. Let's take, for example, a simple problem of having had to withstand the horrible weather we had last week with those gale force winds, the lashing rain, the flooding that we had, and imagine yourself living on the street with not being able to access the shelter which is available, certainly in areas which are well prepared. But what do you do if you have nowhere to stay? You have to find a bridge under which you can lie, or a shelter in a doorway, or somewhere where you're out of that horrible freezing wind and the lashing rain. While you sit there and try to shelter and have some warmth, maybe if you're lucky with a blanket to wrap around yourself, and then you find that you have got a hacking cough a few days later with green phlegm coming, not helped, of course, by the fact that you assuage some of your stress by smoking tobacco, which is absolutely without recommendation. But now you come to a doctor and you say, I have this terrible cough, I feel ill, I have fever, I have chills. And what am I going to do? Listening to the chest, I find there's actually a bronchitis, maybe heading towards bronchopneumonia. And I'm going to give antibiotics at that time and something for the pain, if that person can afford to fill the script. Because bear in mind, they may have no money in their pocket. But assuming they've got the necessary money to afford the script in the first place, now they are out of my reach with an antibiotic in their hands or in their pocket, maybe some painkillers for their aches and pains, and now they've got to survive in the next few days, aching with pain, rigors, chills, muscle pains, where you and I would be taking to our bed with some hot lemon tea, and they are under a tree somewhere, trying to exist. The very simple case. What will then happen? The chances are it could progress to bronchopneumonia. And then, of course, the good thing happens. They might get accepted into hospital if they have the ability to find someone who takes them there, and they'll be admitted for a few days while they get IV antibiotics, where they will get food, where they will have a warm bed to lie in. And then, when they are feeling better, 2 days later perhaps, they will be discharged with a pocket full of antibiotics to find themselves under a tree, unable to find food or afford the food. That is not acceptable for anyone in our society. And this is just a very minor case. Let's assume someone comes to me and they have got psychiatric problems, as many of these people do, and find their perception of the world is greatly altered and that everyone is against them. They have this paranoia which doesn't allow them to seek help because everyone is going to be a threat. And they find themselves in the most dire straits. Not only are they without anything to possess, with no place to stay, but with no one they can trust, no one they can speak to. And the medication that they would need to ease the paranoia is not affordable, and when it is affordable, they can't take it because they don't know if it's going to poison them or not, and no one's going to help them to take the medication, give them a helping hand. They are entirely alone. And this is not acceptable for anyone in our society. So the people who are in these conditions are going to have a shorter lifespan. And before they end their days prematurely, they are going to be affecting other people in a wide variety of ways. This has knock-on effects in our economy. They are lost to our economy. They are a drain on the economy. And they are observed by many people who are able to find a home for themselves as someone I don't want to be associated with. They're not part of my problem. I go home to my place, I have my own troubles, you look after yourself. And mention was made by the Honourable Steve Martin about the wonderful volunteers we have who are helping to assuage the problems that these people have, that other people would simply walk by. And we as politicians, I think, are obliged to assist in finding ways to remove the whole problem of homelessness, especially as, while we might then say, on the one hand, you are maybe the cause of your own misfortune, if we're heartless enough to think that, if we are inhumane enough to point fingers and ascribe blame without actually offering any help, if we're happy to do that, we must also be aware of the pure monetary fact that treating homelessness, preventing it, will cost less than actually treating the effects of homelessness. And any sensible mind would think this is unacceptable. We must invest in this because the end savings, both in terms of our return to the GDP, but also in the savings to our humanity, our very humanity, that we, as caring human beings, will suffer if we do not help in reducing this intolerable burden on our community. Now, I believe this is going to resonate with everyone here. I trust very much so. And this excellent motion I would fully support, and I expect everyone here will. And I look forward very much to the government's response, bearing in mind that I assume that all of us here are caring humans who care about the well-being of each one of our society.